The arcade was a special place for a lot of us growing up. Your parent would give you a $10 bill for quarters and set you loose in a room filled with a hodgepodge of gaming experiences. The arcade introduced cabinets of fantasy, adventure, puzzles, and action. We admire the elaborate cabinet art, the lit-up marquees, the sound of demo screens running on loop, all while being fascinated by the glow of our favorite games in a dimmed room. It was indeed a vacation for gamers. Nowadays, at least here in the United States, arcades are hard to come by. Mostly they are attached to bars, but you can still find some rare spots that recreate that old arcade feeling. Thinking about this led to this video. I want to talk about the arcade games that I love. The ones that I always go back to and that ate my quarters faster than Pac-Man ate ghosts. Here are some of my favorite arcade games. Final Fight. The quintessential beat-em-up of our time. Guy, Cody, and the mayor of Metro City himself, Hagar, lay waste to the Mad Gear Gang in order to save Cody's girlfriend, Jessica. Button-mashing combos, spinning lariats, jumping pile drivers, and laying the smackdown with pipes. Final Fight is such a classic, not only in the beat-em-up genre, but in gaming. The character sprites look great, and the sound effects are arcade gold. This is actually the first arcade game I ever remember playing. I was 4 or 5 and there was a Final Fight cabinet in the teacher's lounge of the school my mom worked at. She would give us a few quarters and I'd go to town, thus locking Final Fight in my memory for the rest of my life, giving it the immortality it deserves. It's the 90s, and whether you're into comics or not, you know who the X-Men are. And if you went to a Chuck E. Cheese in the 90s, you played X-Men the arcade game. A game that fuses together gaming and comics to achieve a nerd's wet dream. You fight with the X-Men against Magneto and his henchmen. Great graphics and dazzling super moves really makes this title stand out. It also has some classic-ass sound effects, like the famous Colossus scream. Seriously, I have so many memories of hearing Colossus echo throughout an arcade, and we can't forget one of the coolest mistranslated lines in arcade history.
X-Men, welcome to die.
What I really covet from the X-Men arcade game is the cabinet. The 6-man X-Men cab is my favorite arcade cabinet. Dope-ass cabinet art and the dual CRTs simulated a widescreen. Man, it is just beautiful to me. The gameplay is great and is especially better with friends. I always have a mutant blast playing this game. I love watching The Simpsons growing up. It was one of the shows my family and I always watched together. The show is definitely a comedy staple of my childhood, so naturally, I would love the arcade game. Smithers robs a jewelry store, for some reason, I don't know, and Maggie is kidnapped, forcing the Simpson family to rescue their lost member. This is another beat-em-up that, in all honesty, is actually probably one of the most basic beat-em-ups. There's nothing really special about the combat, but what sticks out to me the most are all the little details, like when you die, you got a little devil bart floating over your head, or when you resurrect, you fly in like a superhero. There's also cameos here and there everywhere, like Principal Skinner and Martin, Santa's little helper, and Snowball the cat, which you could pick up and chuck at the bad guys. The game is also pretty creative, with unique looking bosses and locales. My favorite is the Dreamland where you fight donuts and saxophones. I just find it hilarious. I'm probably biased with this game since the show is such a fixture in my household, but I don't care. The Simpsons arcade game will always be high up on my list.
Marvel vs. Capcom 2. New Age of Heroes.
What's an arcade list without a fighting game? Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is all I played in arcades when I was a teenager. Nothing sucks you in more than a giant cast of comic book heroes and villains and characters from some of your favorite video games. I don't know how Marvel and Capcom made this work, but it was magic. Flashy and fast moving with a billion hit combos and 3v3 combat with the ability to tag out and call assists, MVC2 blew me away. This is one of those games where there was a line in the arcade of people waiting to play, and the first time I learned what winner stays on means. The first time I felt the thrill of getting on a streak and beating opponents one right after another as they wait in line, or being the person that beats someone on a streak. It was also the first time I witnessed how good people were at fighting games. I always think of this game as my introduction to the fighting game community, as I have so many memories of talking to people about the game and sharing tech and thoughts in the arcade, which I had never done with any other game prior. Not only is MVC2 one of my favorite fighting games, it's one of my favorite games ever. Sadly, I am absolute dogshit garbage at it now, but that doesn't stop me from playing it every single time I see it in an arcade. Sunset Riders is actually a game that I first played in arcades somewhat recently. I knew it from the Super Nintendo, but the arcade experience is the way to go. Side-scrolling shooting action in the Old West mixed with some comedy and charm. Definitely inspired by other games like Contra, it's just a simple game to get into. The stages and locales are colorful, the game runs smooth and looks great with a mix of odd and goofy things, like running on a pack of bulls or getting doinked with a pitchfork. I love the weapon upgrades and each boss fight is different and fun. The game is just flat out entertaining. I think my favorite stage is the horseback stage. There's nothing like wielding dual shotguns while smoking fools on the back of a horse. Man, remember when Konami made video games? They had so many bangers they made for the arcade. 3 of the games in this video are Konami titles. Like, that's crazy. They really knocked it out of the park, and Sunset Riders is one of their best. Konami, please go back to making awesome video games. We all beg you. I highly recommend seeing if there's an arcade near you and checking it out. I give mad respect to anyone still running a full arcade and keeping the dream alive. It's an experience everyone needs to have or relive. If you don't have anywhere near you, then you should download Fightcade. It's an app that has online lobbies set up so you can play arcade games with other people online. It's a lot of fun. Whether it be from my childhood memories or going to my local spot today, the arcade will always be a special place for me. They're a refuge for gamers and a staple of my youth. What are some of your favorite arcade games? Feel free to share them. Thank you for watching.